Glad you could join us here this evening. And today we're going to talk about the big news coming out of the New York Mets, and that is that Steve Cohen, the billionaire hedge fund manager who was once thought to be out of the sweepstakes to become an owner of the New York Mets, he is back in, and he put forward the highest bid for the team, $2 billion to buy the Mets, and then an additional $2 billion to potentially buy SNY, the Mets television network. Now, there is a lot of question about whether the Mets are actually going to put SNY up for sale, but let's be fair, $4 billion for everything, the Mets and the TV station. That's good. That's the highest bid right now. And the question is, what do the Wilpons do? Do they finally give in and sell the team to Steve Cohen, or do they wait it out? Do they wait for a higher bid to come in, or do they wait for something that's a closer bid? There was a lot of discussion through the papers. The New York Post reported last night and early this morning that the Wilpons would prefer to sell to somebody else, maybe Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez. And as we know, A-Rod and J-Lo got into the game for the Mets around March, and they have continued their pursuit. They have partnered up with J.P. Morgan Chase, which they did in April, and then they decided to change course and combined their bid with Vitamin Water co-founder Michael Repole and Florida Panthers owner Vinny Viola. So A-Rod, J-Lo, part of an ownership group, somewhat like the Derek Jeter ownership group that ended up buying the Marlins. Their bid is at $1.7 billion, and that's just for the Mets team itself, not SNY. Also involved are New Jersey Devils and Philadelphia 76ers owners Josh Harris and David Blitzer. They have an offer on the table as well. We don't know what that figure is at this point, but you know what? Those two guys own two teams, and they want to jump into the baseball market and own the Mets. So those are the top three bidders right now for this franchise, with Cohen leading the way for the Mets. And let's just be honest here, folks. When you look at the way things have gone for the Mets over the years, and all the reports that we've seen that the Wilpons struggling financially, looking to sell the baseball team, they want to make a move. There was a lot of debate earlier this year when the initial proposal by Cohen for $2.6 billion fell through, that the Wilpons wanted to maintain some control. And it was going to be a 5-year process in the transition to Cohen, and that was something that Cohen at the time really wasn't keen to, and that's part of the reason why that deal fell through. Of course, SNY, a big part of that as well. Mets know that's a moneymaker, and they don't really want to give that up too easily. So it's going to be fascinating to see who the Mets go to. Now, as I mentioned before, the reports earlier were that the Mets would rather sell to somebody else, not Steve Cohen. Well, according to now more recent reports, the Mets want to have this deal done by the end of this calendar year, and we all know this has been a crazy calendar year for that matter, for many, many reasons, COVID-19, everything else. But the Mets, Fred Wilpon, and this is from the Daily News, Fred Wilpon and his brother-in-law, Saul Katz, are interested in the higher bidder, which right now would be Steve Cohen. And Wilpon and Katz do not need, as was previously reported by the Post, they do not need Steve Cohen to ante up another $250 million more than his nearest rival bid, which right now would be A-Rod and J-Lo. They're saying that's false, and that there's a preference that the Wilpons would rather sell, especially Jeff Wilpon, would rather sell to A-Rod and J-Lo. That apparently is false, depending on which sources you want to believe, which newspapers you want to believe, for that matter. So it's looking like, if that is true, if the Wilpons are willing to sell to the higher bidder, there's a good chance that bidder and that owner could be Steve Cohen. Now, that doesn't mean that it may not be A-Rod and J-Lo at the end of the day, but it's very possible. And as I said before, it's time for the Wilpons to get out. This is a team that has struggled financially. This is a team that, for whatever reason, over the years, has been very, very frugal. And we can go back to the Madoff situation, and even some of the really incompetent moves this organization has made over the years in spending money, the Bobby Bonilla contract notwithstanding. It's time for the Wilpons to get out. It really is. And it's time for them to sell to an owner, an ownership group for that matter, that has deep pockets and is willing to go out there and spend for a big market team, and the Mets are in a big market. This is a New York City team, and over the years, they have not spent that way all the time. Yes, they have spent big contracts, inheriting the Robinson Cano contract for a ridiculous amount of money in years, paying $138 million over 8 years to David Wright. Of course, he didn't end up playing all those years, as we all know. I believe Johan Santana was what was it, 157 million back in 2008? Yeah, it was 137.5 million. Johan Santana, $137 million back in 2008. So the Mets have spent money. They just haven't really spent it wisely over the years with regards to the Wilpon's ownership. Now, we'll see what happens. I think if you get A-Rod and J-Lo as the owners of this team, you certainly get a lot of star power. You certainly are going to get a lot of headlines. And you're certainly going to get a real Hollywood feel to the franchise as far as having those two around, if they should end up being the owners of the team. That doesn't mean they're going to be great owners. That does not mean they're going to have final say on player personnel. If anything, it may be, let's say, like the Derek Jeter situation, where they're kind of like a figurehead in a lot of ways to a lot of things, but they will have some say in what goes down as far as ownership of the team. But they would be the headline of anything else of owning the Mets. If it's Steve Cohen, you're getting somebody who has been a lifelong Met fan. You're getting someone who has, again, been a part of the front office in a minority capacity already. And you're getting somebody who has deep, deep pockets and who has been known as being a very shrewd negotiator and a very shrewd person in general, for that matter. He does not like to lose at all. And a lot of his personality was used loosely to be based off of the character Bobby Axelrod for the Showtime series Billions. So this is a guy who doesn't take losing lightly. He wants to win. He will spend loads of money to make sure he gets what he wants. And when you're putting up $4 billion to not only get the baseball team, but to get everything, yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see. It would be really hard. I can't imagine the Wilpons at this point, and things could change, but the Wilpons would be crazy not to accept that deal. $4 billion? Come on. So either way, a change is in the offing for the Mets. It's needed. It doesn't guarantee that Steve Cohen will be a great owner. Doesn't guarantee that A-Rod and J-Lo are going to be great owners. But at the very least, it gives the Mets a chance in the long run to be competitive in the market. And that's what the fans really, really want at the end of the day. They want a team, an owner that is willing to go out there and put this team in a best position to win every single year. That's all the fans want. That's all the fans want from the owner. That's it. So, folks, what do you think? What do you think about Steve Cohen's latest bid to buy the Mets? A-Rod, J-Lo, what do you think about them as a potential owner? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Remember to like and subscribe right here to the Sports Talk Nation here on YouTube. Remember, follow us on social media at OpenMikeNJ on Twitter and also Facebook.com/OpenMikeProgram. We'll talk to you next time.